Thanks for tuning into the For Those Made to Do podcast. We are your hosts, Mandy Sahota
and Bianca Pavel. This podcast is all about the doers who have achieved career success in the UAE and the stories that go with it.
In this episode of For Those Made to Do, a Luxury Mindset, we have the pleasure to speak to Leda di Marti, CEO of fashion consultancy Maelle. Leda takes us on a journey from working in the ateliers in Italy to New York Fashion Week to establishing her own business here in the Middle East.
If you'd like to know how to enter the luxury market as a new brand taking on the giants, how luxury consumption in the Middle East differs from Europe and the US, and what trends are dominating the luxury space in 2024, then grab an espresso and tune in with us. We hope you enjoy it. Hello everyone, and welcome to a new episode of For Those Made to Do. Today we're talking about building a unique mindset, one that has become almost synonymous with the GCC region, the luxury mindset. In a country like the UAE, where the luxury market is worth $4.2 billion, buying luxury goods is not just a lifestyle, but a statement in and of itself. So today, we're very excited to explore what cultural and economic influences have shaped this industry to date, and also look at the evolution of consumer preferences over the past few years. To guide the conversation, we're extremely happy to have in our studio a dear friend of ours, Leda di Marti. Leda is a fashion designer herself who over the past 10 years has launched her own collections, but also has had multiple successful collaborations with global brands such as Marc Jacobs and Victoria's Secret. Leda is also the CEO of Maelle, a consultancy firm that helps boutique and SME fashion businesses to scale, and the president of the Middle East Chamber of Buyers. When does she have time for all this? We don't know, but we'll find out today. So Leda, welcome to our studio, and we look forward to learning from you today. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Mandy, and thank you, Bianca. And I'm very happy to be here and explore together some new mindset on luxury.
Amazing. And we're really excited to dive deep into this topic, but we're going to start with an icebreaker to get the conversation warmed up a little bit. So I'd like to ask you, which luxury brand is the most iconic to you and why?
So that's a wonderful question to start because there are so many that are dear to my heart. But there is one in particular that really is iconic because it's the new version of my old loved ones, which was Del Pozo, which was a fashion brand from Spain that unfortunately failed some years ago. But I have to say the Jacquemus that was established in 2015 is my new favorite one. So I think that's iconic on a commercial point of view because the way that the founder of course, establish it was amazing and completely out of the box. Any strategy that commercially applied was different from anything else. So let me tell you just some parts of his story. So Simon Porte, which is the founder of it, and Jacquemus is the name of his mother that unfortunately died. So he gave this name to the brand. She died before he became famous. So when Simon won the LVMH prize in 2015, he also won 150,000 euro. And now he has 6 million followers on Instagram. And what I want to say is that he became a celebrity, founder of a brand before becoming a brand itself.
So it's almost like influencing,
yes.
Really, which is a completely different approach to the kind of historic legacy brands that we see.
Absolutely. Like as we know, usually the brand establishes itself for the products and then from the personality of the founders, of the creative directors. With this brand in particular, it completely changed, disrupt the industry as we knew it used to be. So that's what I want to say. That's iconic for me.
Amazing. Can you walk us through your career journey to date as well and tell us a bit more about your business, Maelle?
So first, I want to tell you that Maelle believes in the winner mindset of fashion brands and in how it fits into the high-performing fashion system today. Maelle offers guidelines, contacts, and life-changing business solutions for fashion brands to expand in foreign markets through partnership, investing in fashion brands, and mentorship programs. So these come from all my experience, and not only mine, but our team. And Maelle team is now divided in 13 different departments, and we have from HR to product development to wholesale franchising. So a brand really can build with us a credibility and a really established career. So a brand is looking to have this only one solution, and if we can give it to him of course, in a very scalable way, that's what we're looking for, to build with brands that really will make the difference in the future and will try to embrace innovation as much as possible. That's what we believe in.
So you mentioned Maelle was born from your experience up until this point. So can we take a step back, and if you could give us more insight in how you got to today in the fashion industry?
Oh, that's a very long story. I started working in fashion industry since I was 14. So I started because I was one of the dresser up of the fashion models in the backstage of fashion shows. And that was very interesting for me. I was 14 at that time. So everything was very new.
Amazing.
Yes.
How did you get there in the first place?
Because in Roma, there was a very popular at that time. We're talking about 2006, 2005. So there was a very popular fashion show, a fashion week, I would say, which was called Alta Roma. And at the moment, it's not that popular. It used to be, but at that time, it was like high fashion. And I used to work in that. And I was doing that while I was studying as an high school student. So basically, when I decided to definitely be in the fashion industry, I started working in tailors and then by side on the pattern makers. So I was really into the tailoring. I loved it. I really loved the construction of products. I was there to learn how to put things together really at that level. And I was the helper, like the youngest helper. And then when I decided to go to university, of course, fashion design career was my preference. And it was very hard to convince my parents that was my dream, because at that time, there were not many diploma or not many, I would say, masters in fashion. It was not that popular and was not even that established.
Was it more of a vocational kind of route?
They didn't know where I would have ended up too. So they were a little not confused, but they thought I had other skills that I could, maybe like languages. My father wanted me to become like a translator or an interpreter or something like this. And since I was very good with languages, I wanted to do even 2 university, but it was not even legal at the time in Italy. So now it is legal to do 2 university at the time, but that time not. So I decided to do fashion, and I ended in 3 years straight, and I went to New York after that.
That's always like the goal, isn't it? If you're interested in fashion, you go to New York and live your dreams.
From Italy as well, from Rome and Milan. I feel like that you're kind of ticking all the boxes there. So
see, the fashion weeks and fashion city are not many. So I think you need to live it in the city where you feel that is more, they resonate more with you. So New York was at the time, of course, the dream for everybody, I would say. But it was mostly for me because I was really into ready to wear. And New York really resonates for that kind of vibe, because every fashion week is different. Every city has a different vibe and mood. Like London is more underground. At the time, Paris was very high fashion. So I was more into ready to wear. So that's why I tried to my career that.
Amazing. I'm loving the origins of your story. So you mentioned ready to wear, and we're going to switch gears a little bit, because I'd really love to hear from your opinion how you would define the luxury mindset, and what are the characteristics of a luxury brand and those of a luxury consumer as well.
So a luxury mindset is being defined as a combination of a few characteristics, I would say. So first of all, is the mix of attitudes and values and behaviors of the consumer. That for sure. The characteristics are definitely the most important for me, the craftsmanship, so the high quality of products, the brand identity, which is basically the fundamental. And I would say that probably the history of a brand is another big chunk of credibility of the brand. But then innovation is what is picking up in the last few years. So if a brand is also innovative, it can really segment itself as a fashion luxury brand. And then I would say the price is definitely less important today in the today market. And only pricing itself has no value as today. So it must be a combination of all of them, and that really makes you in the luxury segment.
As someone who doesn't consume luxury very often, I've always had this perception that there is a very close connection between pricing and exclusivity. And in some cases, you can really see that. The higher price the product is, the more inaccessible it becomes to a certain type of buyer, right? So just to kind of come back to that idea, do you see any correlation in the sense of the pricing point of a product kind of ruling out a certain type of consumer? So
definitely, I think exclusivity is one of the other characteristics that makes a brand luxurious. So when a consumer is forced to buy something and he feels the urge to buy something because of the exclusivity, let's say, characteristic that he has. So the exclusivity is not only related to the price, but also to the belonging of a community. I think that also makes a lot of difference these days compared to how it used to be. Like before it was more like silent. Now you really belong to a community, you belong to a brand lifestyle, and it really shows up. You really resonate with the brands, you really are happy to share the same values, you're happy to be part of that family, like it's becoming your family, your tribe, something like this. So the price point, I think at this point you reach the moment where the price is related to the quality. It's like a very interesting combination of things. So first, a brand can present their products very high-end, so the price can be very high, but that is not even depending on the quality of the products, but depending on maybe all the other markups. So let's say the advertising, the communication. So the consumer is paying for that, for the awareness of be part of that tribe. And then there are smaller brands that are not the usual ones. They are not the Prada or the Gucci or the Versace that we know, Dior or Balenciaga, etc. But they are smaller brands that are more focusing on the quality. And so you pay for that. Really, you pay for that. And maybe the price is the same at the end. But in one, you're paying for the model on the runway. You're paying for the belonging, the feeling of belonging, the sense of community. For the smaller brands, you're paying just for the product.
Gotcha.
And maybe there is not much profit even for the founders of the brand.
So luxury is also connected to loyalty in a sense,
Definitely,
right?
Definitely. And I feel that the consumer that were probably the boomer generation of our parents, so they probably were more... They were loyal in terms that they were loyal to the quality of some products. And as soon as the quality was not satisfying them anymore, they just switch into something else. We're talking about big brands like Loro Piana, Brunello Cucinelli, where the quality is really the main focus of the brand. In fact, they really resonate with some archetypes that are reflected into caregiver. So the caregiver is an archetype that really take care of the environment, the nature. Like Loro Piana is like the nature, the quality of the products. We see that value really popping up in that conversation, that in this message that the brand conveys. And on the other side, we have us, the millennials, I would say. Millennials are looking for something new, but they're not as much loyal. We believe more on the messages. And as soon as the brand fail in the communication, we just don't believe in it anymore. Like they lose our trust very easily. Is that right?
Yeah. So you mentioned about the evolution of luxury, and I'm quite interested with the demographic today, with the buying power. What are the biggest factors that influence the way they approach luxury?
What I would say is that generation today of millennials and Gen Z are differently approaching the values that the brands are conveying. So apart from the quality of the products, which is okay, they need to care about the messages. They need to care about these values and this sort of, I would say, expectation that they have on brands. And nowadays, brands of any industry, not only fashion, they cannot stand for nothing. They need to take a preference, even in politicals, even in social and cultural changes, they need to take a side. They need to show their voice. And I'll tell you why fashion has so much power. So sometimes, we have clients that are not very established, like just fashion brands that just started maybe a few years ago. They have 6 or 7 seasons, which is very little for us. So they come to us and they say, we want to do something different. We want to bring something new. And we're like, why did you choose fashion? Because some founders have an idea and they have a message, but they don't have a way to do it. They don't have a medium. So fashion is just a medium like any other. And they choose this industry because fashion is the most exposed industry among all the industries. So fashion has so much power of conveying messages. We think that, first of all, is an industry that has 2, and more than 2 probably, but in women's wear, they have 2 big appointments. So the fashion weeks in February, March, and September and October, big moments of a lot of exposure. They get press, they get buyers, they get interest from all the media. Like everybody's looking at them. Even people that are outside the industry, not insiders, they're looking at them. So they're looking at everything. So everything that is shown into these moments of fashion. And then we have men's fashion, then we have haute couture. So there are many moments during the year where the power of fashion is so important. So that's why some brands choose that as a way to convey just a message. It could be anything, but they do that. And for example, we had a client once that were just wanted to bring awareness to the environment and the climate change, so environmental situation. They just wanted to do something. Instead of using any other industry, they choose fashion. They produce products that were, of course, going into the funds were supposed to provide that kind of help for some companies that they chose, like ONG, basically. So So, they choose fashion because they have an exposure. And I will never say that enough. That's why I love to work in fashion. It's not only about that. It's because it's just not about the beauty part, the beautiful part. The fashion week is because you really see stories behind the brands and really strong stories. So that's why I really like it.
So it's no longer just about the prestige now. It's actually the context, the storyline, the background, everything that goes into producing that piece that makes someone want to have it, essentially.
Absolutely. I think that really changed a lot. And I think COVID really accelerated.
Yeah.
Because people were like, okay, we are all about like the bling bling, even this industry specifically, but then what is really important. And you see, like even in COVID, the people cut off in the goods that were not, like experiences and goods that were not important. So travels, of course, the first thing, and then fashion was one of the second. So even that you realize how fashion is not that influential on people. Like there are many goods that are primary goods. Fashion is just something
not essential, but it's
essential.
It's a luxury. It's something,
it's
like
nice
you were saying,
have,
it's a nice to have for the belonging
Absolutely.
part.
It's a plus, but fashion it will never be considered as primary. There are people that will put that as a primary need only if they belong to a certain lifestyle, but not all of us is belonging to that lifestyle. So that what I would say is fashion is a very superficial industry for some point of view, and it's so deep for some other point of view. If you are on the right side of fashion, then you can be really deep. You can really make it meaningful. You can really change and drive the change because, as I said, there is so much exposure compared to other industries at all. Completely.
I love that. And I guess, you're reflecting back on your 10-year plus journey here, starting off in Italy and then going to New York to train there. And then you travel twice a year, like you said, right? You go to all the fashion shows in Milan, in Paris, in London, in New York. And you've established Maelle here in the Middle East about 3 years ago, you said?
Yes.
So we're just curious to see if you've noticed any big differences between the luxury market in the West, in Europe, in the US versus here in the Middle East in terms of how consumers engage with luxury brands and how they consume luxury brands.
So as you both know, Maelle has been established in Europe and North America before being established in Dubai. So our experience comes from those markets first. And now when we moved to Middle East and we met not only the clients, so the final users, but we also met the brands, we saw that the lifestyle and even the mindset is completely different. So what I see is that the Gulf area specifically has been growing so much in terms of cultural shift, and also so many strangers are coming now, so many foreigners, and so they're bringing their culture, they're bringing their experience, they're bringing so many knowledge from everywhere. It is making the Gulf definitely a melting pot. Like it's just a mix of everything, and the beauty of it is that everybody lives so peacefully together. Now there is we are at this table, we are all from different parts of the world.
Exactly.
How many cities that can happen? Like in really metropolitan cities, but not everywhere in the world that you can really build connection with people and find yourself in such a beautiful environment where everybody is in peace with each other. So I think that the consumer in Middle East is much more conservative. They believe more in the high quality products values. So I would say that they believe in the quality and the status symbol. That's something that we really resonate with. Like in Europe, they're losing this kind of sense of belonging on the status. They're more looking into, of course, sustainability, environmentally conscious, like the brands that are doing something for the good. Like they're buying almost
the mission.
Only for that. Yeah, the mission and the vision of the brand are the most important. Then in Middle East, we see that this message hasn't come yet so powerful. So even the youngest one are still very tangled into that mindset. Yes, the labels.
Yeah.
So the part of show off or the part of sense of belonging, as we said before, they are still afraid to pop up as the new ones or as the different ones. They still like to belong. And I tell you why. Another reason that we found, I think that's one of the most important, is the gathering. So in Middle East, there is still this sense of community where you gather together, even for weddings. Like the weddings are a big moment of gathering together, friends and family, and to show what are you worth of. No, you're worth it. Then you show also in weddings or celebration with the family. There are many moments during the year. We think about Ramadan that is coming soon. So even that is a moment when everybody come together and just a moment to celebrate. So gatherings are not that, like as a social entertainment, is not something that is happening in Europe and North America as much as, like Western country, as much as in Middle East.
Yeah. They have lots of opportunities to showcase their style, their fashion, their labels. So
Of course.
it's an interesting take, and I've never actually thought of it from that perspective before. So thank you for giving us insight into that on a local level as well.
So how do you then approach the balance between preserving traditional luxury values, but also embracing modernity here in the Middle East in the luxury market?
I think that the brand history, they should embrace the innovation. They should not delete it, or they should not compromise on it. They should definitely embrace innovation. So what we said before, like the brand identity and then the exclusivity and all these characteristics that a luxury mindset has, so even a luxury brand has, they should just be implemented with innovation, each of them. If a brand has, apart from its history and craftsmanship, it also has a innovational craftsmanship, like it's a high quality, it's a different way to produce the same high quality products. That's what is adding more value. So innovation should come with it, and should, I think, even bring excitement to the new consumers that is trying to achieve, now is trying to get into the brand lifestyle, because definitely the new clients are bored. They've seen everything. They have seen any kind of nice products. They're used to many things. So the brand have to renovate. They have to launch new ideas, still be very true to themselves. They need to keep their own roots there, because some of these big brands, they've been there for so long. Like Louis Vuitton has been there since 19th century. So they were doing like big bags for travel. So they've been there for so long, and they have a big heritage, so they must innovate, or some brands of them will fail. They need to attract new consumers, so innovation has to come with it in many things, like in materials, even in the way they connect with the consumer, but even within the company. How do they attract new talent to work for them? That even has to be innovative, because the brands are doing all the same things. If it comes a new brand, like Jacquemus is the one that is doing more innovative things, even into attracting talents in the company, trying diversity into the company, within the company, and building new perspective. Even that is making the difference, and it will be the new, because everybody wants to work in fashion, but they also want to have a nice balance in work life. Generation Z doesn't want to have the 9 to 5. They don't compromise on that. They're very tired of that kind of hustle mindset that we grew up with.
No. As millennials, absolutely, yes.
You need to work so much, you have to prove so much, even if it's out of your time of work, even if it's not needed, you still have to do it to impress who we don't know. And I think Gen Z will do what we failed to do, so just acquire back.
They're just saying no, they're taking back the power.
Yeah, definitely.
And we love that about them.
Definitely.
They also need to flex a little bit more and fit in a bit more. So I love that idea of innovation, not just across what's on the runway or what's in store, but also in terms of how your business runs, your supply chain, your materials and everything. I think that's really important. At the same time, back to that idea of the tribe, what keeps people in the tribe are those shared values and that shared identity. And I think in the luxury world, there is a certain level of legacy that comes with building a brand over centuries, like you said before. So how can a new brand that wants to enter the luxury fashion industry then position themselves against the titans that have been there for tens of years and have built this really strong audience?
As you know, there are giants that are going to stay forever. Mm-hmm. And like very honestly, the space in the multi-brand shops are limited, of course. So, and even in the Middle East specifically, there are not a lot of multi-brand shops. Like we own the Chamber of Buyers. So we know that the number is very small compared to Europe, compared to North America or other parts of the world. So that makes the challenge even more challenging. And for a small brand that wants to establish itself, it cannot believe in the brand itself and just produce a nice product. We are looking for brands that are really, they have something more. So what is that something more? Like, I will be very honest, because you know me, and mm-hmm. I'm a Capricorn, so I'm very down to earth. And I would like to say something inspiring, but at the same time, the truth is that it is very hard for a brand by itself just to propose itself to retailers and to boutiques and to multi-brand stores, even concept stores or mm-hmm. Big chains like Harvey Nichols or Lafayette and these others. So what I will suggest to do is, of course, to understand what are the advantage that a brand have. So if I am a small brand, what are the cards that I can play, no? So what I would say is that the product is okay, the founder is maybe grounded, a good person, big heart, very creative, and that's okay. But now we need the contacts, and a lot of good contacts.
The network.
Definitely. The network is what makes clients come to us because we have the network. So they could do maybe what we are doing the same. They will do it, but maybe they will take them 5 years, 10 years, unless you have connection. And I'm not talking about just connection in general, like you know the names. You need to be friends of these people. You need to be friends with these buyers. You need to be really a trusted person for them. So when it comes the moment that you are proposing a new client, they will trust you, and then the brand comes after. So this is the moment where I really think consultants make the difference, because what we can do is do this work for them and keep the relationship, which is a very hard part, but makes everybody happy. And this relationship have to be very genuine. So really buyers and retailers and head of buying, they can trust us as a middleman, because we are the company in between, between the distributors and between the brand. So we are there to support both of them, make both happy. We are there to make everybody happy on the agreement, or everybody happy on the contract. So our role is just to make this transaction easier. And a small brand, if it doesn't have the contacts and it doesn't even want, some founders come to us and they're not extrovert. They don't want to put their face out there. They don't want to go to even events, networking events, run. They don't want to go to fashion weeks. They don't want to show off. They don't want to talk to people. And that really makes it hard. Because unless, the people say that in every fashion brand, in every industry, now usually you have the more introvert and extrovert and they work together. The introvert maybe is the creative one, and extrovert is like the commercial part that goes around and does the economical part of the business. And these two people cannot be in one. It's very hard that you find those in one person, the one founder. So even for fashion brands, we try to have brands that at least have 2 founders, 3 founders. So we have a more like diversity of knowledge, but also diversity of character and attitude, so we can better work with all of them, like head of different departments. So to come back to your question, I think what makes them have an heritage is to start building the contacts before they even think of a brand. So once you're thinking of a brand and you are producing something, whatever it is, accessories or fashion, apparel, whatever, or jewelry even, and you don't have contacts, you are already delayed. You should build your contacts list way more before, like probably 5 years before. So you should be out there building that while you're thinking that maybe you will launch a brand. So that really but of course this is an advice that I cannot give to clients that come to us because they're already late. It's already late. So I'm giving to everybody on this podcast, so to know that you cannot think that may not be useful to you. That time is super useful. It will save you so much money, so much time and energy in the future, and will really make you aware of what these people want, because these are insiders. If you start having a relationship with buyers, you will know the feedback before anyone else. Before the season is on, before the season is over, you will see what they really like, and they can give you trustfully feedbacks that you can really treasure. So my advice would be trust the relationship before even you think of the product, because maybe you change even the product. Maybe you can understand that the product has to be different before you launch it.
And if you were to give people one piece of advice from your experience of working with buyers internationally, what are luxury buyers looking for? What would they say yes to?
The first thing that very concrete they want to is to have brands that have a strong communication budget, I would say.
And an audience or an audience.
Or an audience, yes.
Yeah.
So if you have that, is even more powerful than a good product, which is very sad, I have to say. Like, honestly, being inside, I've seen this changing. It was not like this, of course, before social media. So now, because of that, we have seen that buyers are asking who is wearing this, which celebrity, and who is actually buying it as a consumer. There is any like influencer that you have. There is any budget for communication, like his billboard is going to be in TV, is going to be dressed in some festival, is going to be out there. So if they know there is a plan in communication and marketing, then they will maybe buy the product, because they know that the brand will also do its part, will also invest, because they don't want to be the only ones to invest.
It's a risk for them, isn't it?
It's a big risk these days. It's a huge risk because, as we say, the consumer is not loyal anymore. even to boutiques, even to multi-brand shops.
Yeah, because it's so saturated, isn't it?
It's so
because
saturated.
There's so much more access than there ever was, which leads me on quite nicely to my next question. In what way do you believe technology has impacted the perception and consumption of luxury, especially in the Middle East, in regard to social media or the metaverse and these types of channels?
I think technology is still quite unexplored. I think it could be done so much more. And fashion could really lead the way. And there were some brands that, of course, launched into the metaverse. We were naming maybe Balenciaga because it was the first one to launch into the metaverse in 2021. And of course, at that time was pure COVID. So it was a new thing also because of that. Everybody was staying most of the time at home. And I think the technology is something that we need to explore, and the fashion industry much more into, from the perspective of the final consumer, what they would like to interact with. So I think the brand has to understand that the story and the purchase doesn't end with the actual purchase of the item. They want to keep showing the item, and they want to keep having a relationship. You know, when you say you buy something very expensive and the day after all these desire just fade away because you just had it and that's it. Now we need to understand how we can delay this feeling. How can we make the consumer excited about the product every day? How can we make them happy and also proud to wear it and be as themselves, be a communication, advertising as themselves? Because if our consumer are wearing it, of course, they're just billboards going around, right?
Yeah.
And they will talk to their friends about the product. So what I think that in fashion is a little difficult to explain is the value proposition of fashion brands. Like at the moment we are looking for investors for fashion brands that we took as our portfolio. And this brand is wonderful product made in Italy, etc., internal manufacturing. So everything is good. I'm still struggling to understand what is the value proposition. What is the promise to the consumer of value? What is this promise, what they get in return? Is that they part of something they feel, and we are thinking to implementing a lot of technology into this, because what I think is missing is something that will make it more exciting even for the investor. We're talking about talking to investor and pitch to them, and the investor has to see a value, and imagine that the investor probably is not even in the fashion industry, so will not understand anything about the product itself, and he has to see what is my value out of it, what do I get, why my consumer would like to have this. So technology will have a huge importance, and I think in the next 5 years it will really make the difference between who stays and who doesn't stay anymore, who fails.
So with that in mind, I know that you referred to it quite a bit throughout our conversation, but how do you and your team stay on top of the latest trends that are evolving in the Middle East, and also the preferences of the consumers?
Well, we find our own ways, I would say. There are definitely less data in this part of the world than Europe and North America. So what we're trying to do is to keep ourselves aware of any situation where we can collect this data. And at the same time, through our clients, we understood the consumer behaviors, because luckily we have clients in of course, 3 sub-industry of fashion industry have 5 sub-industries, and we are in the last 3. So our clients are all in the same, like ready-to-wear, pret-à-couture, and high fashion. So we collect data through them because they belong to different merchandise. So we have menswear, we have shoes, we have accessories. So we have a variety of clients where we can definitely understand the market through them. And because even malls cannot give us too much information because they cannot collect as much. They don't have now the system still, I would say, aware of what is the consumer behavior, what they should track. They still haven't tracking that much. While in Europe, we have so much history of developing, or we can say as much as I would say changing that we can track. In Middle East, there is not that system yet applied. Even in Saudi, when we go to Saudi, sometimes we see that there is still missing this part. So probably we will be one of the first one to be able to deliver this data and to create. We create a long reports also for our clients, and we can see so many differences between one and the other because they belong to different systems.
Is this due to the distribution model out here in the Middle East? Because not always the brand has a kind of on the ground presence. They're always doing it through other channels, through the kind of the shops, like you mentioned, like Harvey Nichols and things like that. Is that the reason why? Because they're not always setting up, say, like a head office here in the Middle East?
That's a reason. I think it's basically, this goes very down into the roots of the behavior of the consumer of Middle East. They try to be loyal to one brand and just to go shop to the same brand all the time. Usually they're dressed with the same brand from head to toe, which is very rare now in Europe. You don't really do this anymore. So because of that, I think they didn't get, and also every brand, the problem is that in Middle East there are many mono brand shops, like flagship stores. There are not datas that are sharing these malls because each of them have their own history, no? So they're not sharing. So because there is no sharing, we do not know where it ends and where it starts. It's very hard to track it. Well, in Europe, we have a huge history of multi-branch stores, and even, like I would say, department stores are a big thing. Every country has their own signature. Like Spain, they have El Corte Inglés. In Italy, they have Rinascente. So there are big established ones. Harrods in UK. So we're talking about those that don't even exist here yet. So that is the main reason, I think.
Amazing. So just because we have you here, we'll take advantage and maybe you can share some macro trends that you're seeing in this market. It's only the beginning of the year, but what are you seeing in the market, in the luxury market in end of 2023, early 2024 as trends?
On the commercial side, I think they will be a lot more developed into franchising. And I think that's something that we really saw in the past few years. We were talking to brands that are looking to expand in a franchising formula, meaning that they want to expand in a more even structured way, because franchising make them be sure that the brand will take cover, that will be taken care of with family offices, investors of a VC, etc. So they know that the brand will stay, but they don't need to take care of it too much. So we have a client in Italy that is very established in Italy and in some parts also in Europe, but then they don't want to create like a new office in Middle East. They don't want to make Dubai another office. They're big, but not that big for them to do this switch. So basically they're asking us to find these franchising figures for them so we can take care of them. So it's like, I think now they were in a transaction moment where brands that have some flagship stores, like maybe 10 or 20 in one market, like Europe is one market, for example, and they just want somebody else to take care of the other markets. They don't want to completely expand and use all these resources and then just move here and there, open offices, hire people. They don't want to go into this process. That's what we've seen. They just want somebody like us, for example, any consultancy that can take care of using the right players and find them and contract them the right way and just overview.
Yeah.
They just want this kind of establishment at this point.
I think that's a much safer approach when it comes to going into a new market, right? You go through a partner that knows the market really well. And then, like you said, you don't have to make huge investment up front. And then I guess if it does work out and they want to stay, then they will follow with the head office and the flagship stores and everything.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
Okay, wow. Well, thank you. You've given us so much to think about, and it's been really fascinating to hear your insights when it comes to luxury in this region. So we like to close off the episode with a teaser of the wildcard question. So I'm going to talk you through it, and then what we'll do is we'll revisit the question in our bonus episode where our listeners can tune in to hear the answer. So, Leda, despite economic downturns, recessions, global pandemics, the luxury industry has always persevered, and some luxury brands even made record profits during some of the harshest times. What do you foresee as the biggest challenges and opportunities for luxury brands in the coming year? So we'll park that there and we will revisit it in our bonus episode. And we thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Thank you so much for coming. Great conversation.
Thank you. Ciao.